think this theory, in theory, it does work, like the 21 days, 90 days. But I think if your mindset is not in it, it doesn't matter how many days you put towards this. It becomes a countdown.
Let's start this thing, fool. Hello, I'm Sam.
And I'm Amelia.
Welcome back to S2E podcast, a podcast where we aim to build better mindset for better relationships.
Yeah, and a bit of a dynamic duo this week, a bit of mindset, bit of relationship with yourself. We're going to decipher and go through and break down why do we have habits.
Yes.
So why do we have habits?
Why do we have habits? Well, habits are just, you could say, things that we do autonomously that defines, you could say sometimes routines that we actually take or partake every single day.
And we were reading this study from Nora
Volkow.
Nora Volkow. And to break it down, a summary from what she explains. So she's a scientist who studies habits.
Behaviors and habits, within a, was it drug institution? But it specifically talks about human functioning of the behaviors and how the brain thinks.
Yeah, so why we have habits, it's because once you establish a routine, a habit, it becomes like a automatic thing that happens to you. So you, in a way, or essentially autopiloting, and by doing that, you're creating efficiency, like according to your brain. And creating efficiency means that you don't need to use as much brain power because your body, your mind already knows what you need to do. And it just functions that way, so you can now transition your brain power into other things like learning or, doing other things that actually require more brain work.
So basically it just takes away the brain processing and allows you to focus on the real things that you need to learn or comprehend.
Well, I wouldn't say real thing, but just delegating and freeing up more space in your head.
Yeah, or you can put it in the computer phrases, it's like hyper-threading. It's like your CPU, your brain, so you can think and multitask in different facets at the same time.
Yeah, you've lost me. So another thing that we were reading on, which totally makes sense, is that all habits, good or bad, actually happen in your life for a particular reason. May it be you end your day with eating a lot of chocolate, or you reach for a snack like chips or cookies because that's how you de-stress, or that's how it helps you think. And then over time that becomes a habit, or you create a gym routine so that it becomes a habit and you ensure that you work out 3 to 5 days a week. So these all happen for a particular reason in your life at that point in time.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the ultimate question from that, or off the back of that, is what is a good or a bad behavior?
I think there are many ways you can tell what's good and what's bad. Like we can always go down and, Google and people tell you what it is. But from my perspective, I feel like sometimes even if people say that this might be a bad behavior, like for example, watching TV, like I'll break down into that later on, that people might be like, that's a bad behavior. I mean, a bad habit because now you're wasting your time or you're not using your time efficiently, but it could be relative to each person.
That's right. And it's relative depending on, basically
how
partake.
It serves you, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
But one way for me to decipher if it's a good habit is, in the long run, this particular action that I'm doing, is it serving me to be a better me in the future? Is it keeping me from being my best? Or is it actually pushing me to become better? Or is it helping me with my day-to-day life? Is it influencing it in a better way?
Yeah. And that would be a similar understanding from my perspective as well. Obviously, what effect does it have to you in a short, medium, long term? And that's how we become, start behaviors or start routines, is trying to achieve a certain outcome. And it's just understanding the differences to what that effect has.
Yeah, and I think the bad one, I kind of feel like bad habits are easier to find. Like, for example, health-wise, that's one that you can pick up. If you're eating too much chocolate, maybe gaining a little weight, it's not healthy for you. Or you're eating too much lollies, eating too much fast food. Like, again, that's like healthy. Or if you're just being lazy, not cleaning after yourself, and then from that, maybe you...
Well, another way is to think about like similar to procrastinating. Sometimes you procrastinate and you can't achieve certain things, actions, or outcomes because you're dwelling on the time. Maybe, as an example, like your time management. That's could be a bad behavior. If you're not time managing correctly, then you're not really achieving what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Just on the procrastination one thing, that's a really good example on why I think what someone thinks is good versus bad can be relative to the person, because there's another study, which I won't go too deep into because I think it could go into a whole new conversation by itself, but sometimes procrastination happens for a reason and it could be a good thing for your brain. But say, for example, you're a really busy person, you have back to backs all the time, you're constantly working, you're very productive. Sometimes procrastination happens and it's a sign of burnout or you're overworking, or that's your body just telling you that you need that little break. So that's relative to the person. But if you're someone who generally has quite a lot of free time, but it's time for you to do your work and you're still procrastinating, then that may be a bad habit. So that's like one explanation to show how procrastination or a bad habit, like what people might label as a bad habit, could be different and varies between different people.
So if we think a little bit deeper, procrastination could mean something else that is deeper that you're not realizing, whether you need that added time to relax and to wind down, as opposed to you constantly being on the move.
Yeah, and that's why when we read that, where all habits are happening for a particular reason, whether it's good or bad, I think that's also a good example.
Sometimes you don't even realize these are habits that just happen.
For most of us, we can agree that there are bad habits and it feels easier to create. Whereas, like, if you're trying to get onto a good routine and create a good habit, it seems a little harder to stick to. Why do you think that happens?
I feel that it happens because bad behavior, bad
Bad
habits.
child.
Bad habits is the sense of getting that outcome or feeling is just easier to achieve, as opposed to let's focus on a good habit. You've got to really plan out and really put in the effort to achieve those. Well, one, you've got to set that routine, which that routine will eventually become a habit, and that good habit becomes a good habit.
Yeah, and I think sometimes good habits, if you're trying to build that routine, build a good habit, it requires strategy, in my opinion. So say bringing back to health or being fit, like the easiest one for everyone to relate to. You want to start working out more, you want to become more healthy. So you have to strategize, how do I get there, right? Whereas if you're like, I'm stressed, I just want to go play games after work and that's all I want to do. Or I just want to play games right now because I'm stressed, I don't care about work. That's a bad habit and it gives you that instant satisfaction and there's not much strategy to it. You're just like, I just want to do what I want to do. Whereas good habits, you have to think, even though I don't want to do it, is there going to be good influences or good outcomes that come from it? But it's also knowing that you won't feel that straight away.
It also comes down to, like I said before, it's relative to you as an individual as well, because sure, winding down or playing games could have a negative effect to you, but that could be your form of relaxing or winding out for that hour or whatever it is.
Yeah, I know. What I'm trying to say is there's not much strategy to it. You literally just go to your games and pick it up and start playing. That's all you have to do because you know that the result from that, it's a definite. You know the result is going to give you satisfaction. Whereas if you were to make yourself to go run every day when you've never run before and you want to stay healthy, you don't know how you're going to feel. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. And then you're like, oh shit, maybe I prefer swimming. Like there's a strategy to it, but you don't know how the outcome may affect you. Like in the bigger grand scheme of things, you know that that's working towards being healthy, but you don't know if you like it or not. Whereas if you're going to play games, you're going to eat your favorite chocolate, you're going to snack on your favorite chips. You know what it's going to be like straight away.
If you've got to put the effort to strategize for a good outcome, it's an unknown situation. You're putting yourself in a uncomfortable position because you don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
So outside the topic, relatable scenario would be, for an example, if you're trying to prove efficiency at work, starting the week, making a routine to review what is coming up for that week, and then planning out your day in terms of, okay, well, what do I need to do to achieve those targets? So it starts off as a routine, and then as you consistently do that every week, that becomes a habit.
Yeah. Whereas like someone with maybe bad habits might just be like, oh, it's too tiring to wake up the extra 15 minutes to have a look at my to-do list and create a to-do list and, I'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
Like that's a bad habit. So yeah, I think these are some good pointers in terms of why bad habits are easier as opposed to creating good habits. But they also say that biologically it's created in a way where like your brain is receptive to things that give you those immediate feelings like physical enjoyments or social and emotional happiness that you get from those instant feelings that you get. And that's why your brain or your body gravitates towards like
The easy
creating,
route.
yeah, the easy route and creating bad habits or unhealthy habits. I don't know if I want to call it bad because sometimes it's not bad,
Yeah.
unhealthy for you at that point in time. And from that, there's actually a really common theory that I've seen around a lot. It's the saying that it takes 21 days to create a new habit and 90 days for it to become a lifestyle change. So, in terms of it becomes that autopilot and it becomes part of your life. Do you think that theory is true? Like, have you applied that to yourself before, or do you think that actually does work for you?
Before we can really answer that, we've got to ask ourselves, well, what's the difference between a habit and what's a routine? And I think a habit is a behavior or a set behavior that you follow that you cognitively just do autonomously without even thinking with no intent. Now, a routine would probably be more so where you set the intention to do this particular routine every single day, whatever time, whatever particular action to achieve a goal or achieve an outcome.
So you'd pretty much say that the first 21 days is you creating that routine for yourself.
That's right.
And from 90 days, that's when it becomes part of your life and that's become the new habit.
Yep. I think it's important to understand, okay, one, what are you trying to achieve? And set that in a routine so that you can follow every single day or whatever that you're trying to obviously achieve in that outcome. And then as you're doing that over a set number of days, i.e. 21 days, that then becomes a habit.
So back to my question though, do you think that works and have you applied that to yourself before?
Yeah, I definitely think it does. And as an example, for me, it's like going to the gym. At first, it's really difficult to go. To be committed is probably the number one thing. That's the hard part.
And
So-
stepping into the gym
And
is
stepping
the
into the
hardest
gym
part.
because it's such an unknown territory. You don't know anything about this particular environment or scenario. And that's how I became really into gym. Like I got into that consistency.
Yeah, which kind of falls into what I wanted to talk about. I think this theory, in theory, it does work. Like the 21 days, 90 days, it does work. But I think if your mindset is not in it and you're doing something that you don't like, it doesn't matter how many days you put towards this. If you do it every single day, it becomes a countdown. You're like, okay, 90 days is over. It's not a routine, it's not a new habit. But that's because your mindset wasn't in it in the first place. So I think, although, yes, this theory will work for people who truly want to change their life or truly want to create a new habit, but for those who are like, oh, I'll just try this out, or someone's imposing that on you and be like, you need to try this out and do this, and then you become healthier or you look better or whatever it is. But if it's not for your own bettering for yourself, I don't think it'll work.
Yeah.
That's just my point of view.
No, but you do make a good point because as we said at the beginning, it's all relative to you as an individual, right? So that's why so long that you understand what the outcome is that you're trying to achieve, and that is actually what you want to actually achieve.
Yeah, so like a purpose.
A purpose, so having a purpose and then setting your mindset to that, then
Yeah.
sure, the time frame most likely will apply.
Yeah,
and
because
be
like
applicable.
say you seek the PT and you're like, I'm exceeding everything in the gym. I'm working out. I'm making great PBs or whatever, but I'm still not lean or looking as how I would want to be. And a PT, and you love food, and your PT's like, okay, let's look at your diet. You need to eat like this. You need to have more salads. I'm not giving health advice right now, but it's just like that you need to eat more salads, but you hate salads. And they give you this, like, try this for 21 days. And then from that 21 days, now you look at this for your rest of your 90 days. Once that's over and you still don't enjoy the salad, you're just going to give that up. You're just going to go back to eating what you want to eat.
Yeah.
Unless you're truly like, yes, I want to do this for my body, I want to do this for my general health, then yeah, it I don't know if it'll work. Like it's like a yes or a no. It really depends on how much you want this.
And that's why it's really important to self-reflect and know, okay, is one, what am I trying to achieve? And two, can I, is this really what I want? And set my mindset to that.
Yeah.
And you will make the adjustments.
Sometimes you might fall in love with the new routine. Like, I'm not saying everyone might fall off it and just be like, I don't like this in the first place, and then you just fall off. Maybe you'll actually fall in love with finding that. So, for example, eating salad. Like, if you told me to go eat salad maybe 5 to 10 years ago, I'd be like, ew, disgusting, which I'm sure everyone thinks that. But once you start it and then you figure out to make salads the way that you actually enjoy it, you actually start to stick to it. Speaking of that, what are some good habits and some bad habits that we have within ourselves?
So one habit that I autonomously do is every morning, as soon as I wake up after brushing my teeth, I always come down and make a shake. So I just make a protein, well, not just a protein shake, but I make like a, what is it? It's
A
like
smoothie?
it's like a smoothie shake with like a protein smoothie shake.
So, to you, why do you think that's a good habit?
It's a good habit in my eyes because if I don't make a shake, I'm not going to eat. And when I start my day, I forget that I need to eat. And to start your day, you need to have a good source of foods.
To ignite the brain
Yeah,
power?
to ignite the brain power. So I've got a good source of small carbs, low fat, protein with
And only
good
2%
veggies.
fat.
Yeah. And that's my start to the day every single morning.
Well, I think another good thing that you can take out of it is also knowing that you've started your day with one thing that's healthy. So you've ticked that off.
Yeah. I can see where you're going at there.
Mm.
Nice.
Yeah, one good habit that I wanted to bring up, which is very unique, and this is a very good example in terms of why habits are relative to each person. I think it's good for us as a couple and our relationship. And I briefly touched on it at the start, and it's making 1 hour of our day just spending time together watching TV shows. And that's usually during over dinner. And why I say that's good, because I know some people will be like, okay, you're wasting too much of your time or you're not spending your time wisely, is because it is exactly that. We both work long hours or we both work a lot. And we're a couple where we're not in each other's faces a lot. Like we do our own things. We're very independent. Then we'll come together, have a chat, sit down, have a conversation, but that doesn't occur too often. Whereas like I know some couples may have date nights during the week or some things like that. We don't have that. And why this is a good habit is that one, that gives us the break. Otherwise, we'll be working till, I don't know, whatever hour of the day it is, like late at night. It gives us a break to actually wind down, eat dinner together, and watch something that we both enjoy and just literally just chill.
And I think it's good because it's a good behavior because it's to do with us, right?
Yeah.
It's relative to us, as you said. Not all behaviors, not all habits have to be individual as well. It can be joint.
Yeah, that's why I really
relationship-wise.
wanted to bring this one up because I think it's good for both of us. And we pretty much cap it to one episode. Like sometimes, yeah, there might be one or two where we're like, oh my God, this is so good.
Gets too intense. We got to watch more, I guess.
Yeah, but we know what it is. Like we've strategized. We know that we allow 1 hour exactly because that's about one episode. We eat, and that's about the same amount of time that we need to finish our dinner, have a chat, and then, yeah, that's it. Go about our days. And then whatever happens after that, that's back to our own routines, like whether it's going back to work or going to the gym, whatever it is. I think that's a really good habit that we've developed.
Yeah, it's good. So then what do you think is a bad habit?
For me, I have another specific one is that so as a person, I'm really organized and I have this weird mind where I can remember a lot of things without notes. But I do also like to write down things just in case I do forget. But I don't have a very organized list. So whether this is organizing my thoughts and maybe I dump something here and then I have a piece of paper and I write something over there, and then I'll jot down something I need to buy in my notes on my phone. And it's not as messy as it sounds, but it's definitely not organized. So I have maybe some notes here and then I have Google Docs and then I have my booklet, and it's spread between the three. But I think if I can just consolidate that, put everything together, or even have one centralized document and have tabs between those, at least it's one central location to look back on.
Yeah, that is a good point. Having one central spot where you keep all your notes. You're constantly on the move and you don't have the time to fucking think back and go, oh shit, I remember this, or I know where my information is. And I could say sometimes for me, that is part of my bad habits too. It's losing the sense of shit, where did I put the notes for this particular scenario, event on the day? And I'm trying to recall back on what happened or what my thoughts were at the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's my problem too. But my biggest, I would say, bad habit is I procrastinate pretty hard.
Yeah, so do I, but I do agree you do
I,
procrastinate.
and this is something that we briefly touched on before. I feel it's a bad habit for me because I feel like that I know that I've got things that I need to do, but I get distracted with something that deters my focus or my requirement to do something on. But I also feel that maybe I need to take more time to wind down because I'm constantly doing other things.
For me, as a partner perspective, I can see that yes, you do procrastinate a lot, but I think it's also when you procrastinate, you get carried away. So you, for example, you go and play games, it's great. Like you're using games and playing with your friends as a way to wind down. But then that rolls over where now you're just staying in that gaming zone for too long because you're feeling great. Like you're feeling good, you're winding down. But then it's like there are some other things that you could be doing, but you don't have a discipline to how long. So, for example, our TV watching, we keep it to an hour, whereas yours is like, I'm having so much fun, I'm going to stay here. And then it just, you
Get distracted.
forget. Yeah. And same goes for your YouTube. I think those are the two ways that you usually procrastinate on. YouTube, you're watching, you're like, this is great. I love watching this. I don't really need to do much, or I can do that while I'm doing this. But then again, it rolls over and there's no discipline.
I think it's just getting carried away with enjoying my time or just that wind down.
Yeah.
But with YouTube, it's like you find something interesting and you're like, fuck, this is good. And then you get
Into a
deeper and
loophole.
deeper into it. So, like with YouTube, for an example, I like watching survival, primitive scenarios where people are, out in the sticks with nothing, no tools, no nothing. And they learn to basically build things from scratch. And I find it's cool to watch. And it's good information to know. And I feel like I learn a lot from those kind of videos. So I
Yeah.
just get into this deep hole of constantly watching it.
Yeah, which is why I think procrastination to me, in a general sense, I think for most of us, it's not a good or a bad thing. I think it's more like a middle ground thing, like a yellow flag in a way, because sometimes when we procrastinate too much, it's our body actually telling us something. Like, for example, even though you are winding down playing games or you are winding down watching YouTube, it's questioning your own body and your mind, and it's like, why hasn't that fulfilled you to help yourself feel like you fully wind it down? Is it because you actually are working so much to the point that you're just constantly trying to chase that feeling of now I am refreshed?
Mm.
That's exactly the same as me. I know for a fact that I procrastinate is because I'm doing so much to the point that my mind's just like, my body is like, I can still work, but my mind's just like, I can't do it anymore. So I'll just scroll on Instagram, or I'll, like, you just go on a loophole and, I don't know, find music or play music or whatever it is. And it's just, my mind's just like, nah, don't push me to do it anymore. And my body's like, nope, you can keep going.
Yeah, it's true. But now that we've really spoken about our good and our bad habits, why and how do you think habits are formed?
Well, I think how a habit forms is, it could be a desire to get a certain feeling or a desire to get to a certain place, whether it's like I want to work towards becoming better at my job, or I do want that sense of relaxation or satisfaction or something. And that's how habits are formed. Whether it's good or bad, it's just formed in a way, whether you subconsciously created that or you consciously created that.
I would have to agree because, like I said before, you don't even realize that your habits are habits. You're in such a autonomous thinking where you just do things and you don't even realize that.
Well, I
these things
think it
happen?
depends on person to person because I think I would realize that I'm doing a certain habit. Like a certain habit is a habit. And I think that comes down to also your self realization, your self reflection, or like, why am I doing things this way? So for me, I personally feel like I do know when I have a habit. Maybe bad habits might be something that I am least likely to realize, but over time, when things become like blocking up or not working out, then I'll think about it and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm doing this and that's why it's not working out.
Mm, that's pretty good because I would say most people don't. They don't realize. Some people don't self-reflect where they go, "Shit, this is a bad thing," or "Shit, this is a good thing." It's having a positive effect. You know what I mean? And I think it's just having that realization of what are you truly doing, but being amongst yourself at that moment to realize that. I think a lot of people don't have that.
I think it's just tapping into it. I wouldn't say that people don't have it, but it just comes down to just self realization and thinking about why you do the things that you do and why things happen the way that they happen. Is it because of a certain thing or a certain habit or daily routine or something that's affecting or building that?
Yeah, because I mean, I can definitely put my hand up and say, look, people have had told me, hey, this is a habit, and I didn't even realize. I think you're so ingrained in that, in the whatever you're doing or that moment that you don't realize it. And I think sometimes someone else telling you, hey, this is what you're doing is kind of handy.
Which is good. Like, it's good. That's why we need friends and family to tell you things because they see things from an outside perspective as well.
Yeah.
But to sum everything up, how can we form better habits for ourselves? Like I'm saying, for ourselves in terms of to better our own lives. It doesn't matter if it affects other people. It doesn't matter if other people agree if it's a bad habit or a good habit. Like it's a good habit for yourself. How do we form better habits?
If you've got a bad habit, you don't eliminate it, you fucking replace it. So you find a way to replace it. And I think it's the self-reflection, right? Understanding, well, what is a positive and what's a negative, what you don't like in terms of the outcome, what's having an effect to you, and then focusing on honing on that specifically. But to form a habit, really, we've probably got to start small, right? So dialing it back to the start, how we spoke about habits versus the differences with routines. If we start with a small routine, understanding what our outcome we're trying to achieve first, and then repeat that, be consistent with that, and then eventually that will become your true outcome.
Yeah, I agree with that starting small because if you just jump into it, like, what's it called?
Balls deep.
Yeah, that. You're just creating such a massive goal for yourself. So you're setting yourself up for failure. Can I
Yeah.
say that word?
Yeah.
Because then you're not achieving it, then you're demotivated or you're disappointed in yourself. Whereas if you do baby steps, you can see the smaller achievements, like linking back to that study that says that people create bad habits easier because they receive those instant satisfaction. It's the same reason for this. You create small habits, small baby steps so that you can feel a little bit of that achievement.
Yeah. And it's just realistically setting realistic expectations.
Smart goals.
Yeah, and smart goals.
Those
And
business people out there.
yeah, and it's just another example is just it's just like losing weight. If you're going to the gym, you're putting the effort into it and you're saying, "Look, I want to lose 10 kilos."
Yeah. And then you're going to drastically cut food. You're drastically working out every single day where you're so tired you're not recovering. And then you burn out. And then you're like, this is too hard.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're like, okay, my goal, ultimate goal is by the end of the year, I want to lose 10 kilos. But this first month, let's just lose one.
Starting small, being
Yeah.
realistic. I think that's important. Yeah.
And one is an example that is from my personal life is I did want to, that same thing, wanting to lose weight. And I didn't set proper goals. I was just like, I want to be from 53 kilos to now 47 kilos. And that was such a massive goal. So I was just drastically cutting. And then I read up that eating salads is good for you. But I was creating like the general salads that you see online. And I wasn't making the ones that I like to eat. So that's another thing. If you want to start a routine, start it by researching and experimenting with things that you would think you would enjoy. So if I was to eat a salad, I would not put capsicum in it because I hate capsicum. I wouldn't put like what else? Like
Onion.
onions in it. I hate onions. So bring out the salads that you want to eat so that you enjoy it, and that helps you stay consistent.
Holding yourself accountable is the important thing too. Setting the routine, knowing that, hey, every single day, well, whatever day, whatever time, specific times, this is when you're going to acknowledge it and action it. And I think that's what will help you hold yourself accountable to it. But also reflecting and self-reviewing at the end of the week, the month,
Like,
whatever time frame.
Did this work? Did this not work?
Did this work? Yeah, exactly right. Did this method in particular have any effect to me? And reflecting on that. And then at least you know, okay, well, you're self-analyzing. You're saying, well, shit, is this really having some sort of an effect? Am I noticing a difference? Am I getting an outcome, a positive outcome?
Well, it's also as small as, say, you do want to become more fit. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym every night to do blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the week, you think about it. You're like, okay, I'm feeling really tired because I've ended a long day at work and now I have to drag myself to gym at night. So it's like, what are some things that you do enjoy and what are some things you don't enjoy? So you're like, I do love going to the gym. It's hard, but once I get in there, I love it, but I'm still tired. So it's like maybe next week I'll try morning workouts. So do it before I go to work because there is a bit of time there, less people. I can get in there, get stuff done, go, and that's my end of the day. I don't need to think about working out again until the next morning.
Another way to think of it is like if you're someone that's not confident and you want to be more confident, such as talking to girls. If I'm a guy who wants to talk to a girl, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's an unknown scenario and situation. So taking the small steps to help you feel comfortable putting yourself out there.
Is that a habit though?
What, talking to girls? Hey man, you talk to girls every single day of your life at work, who knows? It's just putting yourself in front of these types of people. And I'm just using this as an example. It's putting yourself in these uncomfortable positions, but the real outcome is you being comfortable with talking to people in general.
If it is really hard, maybe you find a friend or someone who is looking to do the same thing as you and find a friend and do it together. Because then now, again, accountability because your friend's like, hey, let's do it. Or like, hey, let's get up. And you're like, no, I'm so tired. And you're like, no, but today is the day that we need to go to the gym. Like we've set that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we go. It's Wednesday, like let's go. Unless you're like sick or something, but at least there's someone there that's pushing you. Because sometimes doing it alone is a bit harder because you have to now deal with your own self-discipline as well.
Yeah, and the motivation. And give yourself time and be compassionate if you're not seeing the results. Now I'm at this point. Did I really make the achievements or did I get that outcome? If not, that's okay. Back to the drawing board. Let's try something different. Let's keep moving forward. So it's always constantly thinking outside the box of thinking, okay, well, how can I keep moving forward? Which also relates to the next point, which is rather than giving up, it's alternative angles to try to achieve that outcome.
Yeah, so back to the example that we had, which was the working out in the morning versus working out at night. It's just thinking, reassessing on things that you want to do and how you're going to go about it, but also have it fit into your lifestyle. Like sometimes when you're trying to change it, even if it's like the top world recommended routine and everyone does it, it might not suit you. So think about how it fits into your lifestyle and work with that. And it's a lot of trial and error, it's a lot of experimenting, but that goes hand in hand in terms of give yourself time, be compassionate because you have to be patient. Like they said, good habits are harder to build because you don't feel those instant rewards, instant satisfactions, and all that kind of stuff. So it's one, having the small steps because it does help you feel that a little easier than being like, I've just failed because I didn't even reach my goal because you made such a big goal. And also rewarding yourself along the way so that you stay motivated from those small steps. And then just don't give up, experiment, try new things. Don't give up just because one thing didn't work. There's always another way.
Keep looking forward, find the alternatives to keep doing it.
I think one last one that I'll throw in, if this is a new journey or new habit, new routine that you're trying and you've tried everything and it doesn't work and you do feel like you should give up and it's not serving you, that's also okay. Like maybe that really is not something that you need. Like maybe in the end you've tried this routine and it's like, for example, journaling. Maybe everyone loves to do journaling, helps them be more grateful and counts their blessings. and it just really doesn't work with your timeline, doesn't fit in because you don't have time to write in a journal, and it's not really serving you much. Like, you are already a very grateful person and it's not doing much to you, it's okay. Like, maybe just don't do journaling. You've figured it out, you've tried it, that's it. Try something else.
Yeah. It's just about knowing you, what really and truly works for you.
Yeah. So hopefully that's a good little episode in terms of habits, building good habits, and working through some of the bad habits that you feel like could be improved. And let us know what are some habits that you're working on right now.
Yeah. Habits, or even the routines that you started off initially that turn into great habits. Thank you again for joining us. And once again, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Goodbye.
Peace.